Dante, my friend, welcome to the Football Excellence Podcast. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, how's everything going with the coronavirus? I know everyone's talking about it, but it is obviously at the front of everyone's minds. I mean, how's it affecting you guys at the University of South Dakota as far as recruiting, as far as how you guys are meeting and planning for next season?
Yeah, obviously we don't have face-to-face access with our guys as everybody's been sent home. Campuses across the U.S. have moved to shut down the dorms and facilities, access to things students normally do, like the library and the workout facilities, things like that. So we've just, we've had to utilize different things and adjust. Things like we're using right now, Zoom. We'll continue our meetings through that. And obviously we were gearing up for spring ball, but at the beginning of spring ball, you've got your installs. We spent weeks before spring ball planning each one of our practices and the different skills we would have our guys build. Obviously, you're not going to get that, opportunity. Your guys aren't going to get that opportunity to, build that muscle memory. Now we need to, we've kind of adjusted, and specifically to my room, kind of adjusted to teaching these guys mentally, getting them prepared mentally, and trying to use some of these virtual apps that are at our disposal to help these guys. The thought is always trying to get better, and if you can't do it physically, then you have to take that next step. So,
well, and as far as the virtual education and the coaching, like, what does that look like for you guys? I mean, how are you helping these guys get better virtually? Are you installing new plays? Are you, watching film from last year? What's it look like?
Well, yeah, and our staff does a great job of just reaching out to other guys who are in our network to gain ideas and doing our own research into and kind of pod thinking, if you will, if we're all on the same screen there trying to come up with ideas. I think we've done a great job of just taking that next step and particularly in my room, like I said, we're trying to train those guys mentally. So showing them a picture, giving them the same amount of time they would have on the field, very game-like training and the stuff that we're utilizing. So as an example, I'll have these guys on Zoom, show them a picture, have them go through their mental checks, whether that's pre-snap, post-snap, and then how they would finish the play, having those guys write those things out, but to actually think about your assignment, think about what step you're going to take, who's your responsibility, or where is your responsibility, those types of things. So just trying to keep them mentally sharp. Yeah. Using those things.
Right. Well, along those lines, as the Runningbacks coach at the University of South Dakota, what separates an average running back from a great one? Because in today's game, you see that running backs aren't as crucial and aren't getting as paid as much or they aren't as valued as much as they were previously in the past, more because it's such a passing dominant game now. Outside of Christian McCaffrey, who just signed that fat contract.
Right.
But to you, what separates an average from a great running back?
Just utilizing the understanding that the talents they have and what they excel at. Everyone thinks that, hey, I want to run like this guy. I want to run like, well, each running back is unique to them. And if they can understand what their strengths and weaknesses are, then they can easily, demonstrate that on the field. By understanding, hey, I probably don't want to try this move, or I probably don't want to go this way. Sticking to what they do best. If they can understand that, they're going to, take that next step, and then, all the different things, speed, patience, ball security. If those guys are holding those skills at a premium, obviously they're going to be better head and shoulders above the rest of that room.
Right. And when you're recruiting, I mean, specifically for your guys' offense at USD, what type of guys are you looking for to bring in? Speed guys, more thicker guys, a combination?
Yeah, I think we especially here in this style of offense, I like to have a little bit of everything in that room.
What style of offense you guys run exactly?
So we're up tempo. We're going to ask those guys to run in between the tackles, but also be able to get out on the perimeter and be a threat on the perimeter. So speed, patience, and, your vision all comes into play. I think those are core. Those are the core of what we're looking for in our backs. Whether they come in anywhere from 5'7" to 6'2", it doesn't matter as long as you can do those things. And obviously there's little things that we look at by height and weight, but we recruit them all as far as size.
Awesome. Well, and so as we, kind of get more into the team building and the culture, I mean, what are some of your favorite philosophies or quotes that you like to build your room, your position group, and ultimately your team around?
Yeah. I love this question. Getting into college football, I started at Augustana University as a grad assistant. During my time there in the graduate, in the master's program there, we read a book called Legacy. I don't know if you've heard of it or read it. It's about the All Blacks there in New Zealand. And it goes through, they're the most successful rugby team ever. And some would argue the most accomplished team in all of sports. And this book takes you through not only how they win. I don't actually specifically remember them going through each game, how they won it, strategized, how they strategized for each game, those things. They talked about, each chapter broke down a piece of their culture. And that's where I heavily rely when I start to create culture in my rooms. I start to pull principles and ideas from there. Another place that I'll look, another book that I read that has been really good is Urban Meyer's book. Have taken quite a few things from there. One would be, a favorite quote from or idea from Urban Meyer's book that we've incorporated in our room is the thought of, or the acronym BCD. All right.
DCD.
So that's BCD. So that is blame, complain, and defending. So if you can blame, if you're complaining or you're defending your actions, right, you are satisfied with that action. You're okay with that action. So let's say you did something wrong. You took the wrong step, and you practice BCD afterwards, after your coach got on you, and you blame, complained, or defend that action. There's no way for you to get better if you believe that action's right. So what we teach our guys is lose the BCD. Ask yourself, or the first thing out of your mouth has to be, okay, how can I get better? How can I not do this again? If you have that mindset, then you can get better. But as long as you're BCDing, you'll have no progress. And our guys, that's something our guys have really taken to, and that's something that they can really understand and have a visualization on every day if you're harping on it every day. Protecting your name falls into that category. What are you going to do when no one's looking? That type of thing. How are you going to act off the field? We always want our guys to act accordingly, and that's just one thing that we talk about.
When you talk about your name, I mean, that's really interesting because, I mean, you've got a couple of names you're representing, right? You're representing the name that's on the back of your jersey, your family name. You've got the school name, and everywhere you go, you're representative of this football team. Mm-hmm. And it's so important that you transcribe your athletes that at all times you're representing two things at least: the school and your name. Wear those names well.
No doubt. But if you can imagine yourself as a freshman coming in, maybe you live across the states and you're going to a university clear across the other side. When you get there, I think there's not always that immediate team bond, right? So getting these guys to understand that, hey, from the start, your last name is what matters right now, and will always. And then hopefully, down the line with your culture and how you present it, those guys are buying into the team culture as well and into the team name. But yeah, those definitely fall into the same category. Another thing we kind of talk about. Yeah, go ahead. What were you saying there?
No, I was gonna say, getting back to the All Blacks. I mean, that was really fascinating that you brought that up in just a sense that it's a completely different sport. It's rugby, but you're talking about the principles that All Blacks team and that culture that they built for decades. And I'd be interested to hear more about what were some of those key points that made them so dominant and made that team culture so strong.
Yeah, sure. They, some things that I pulled away from there is, they had an entire chapter on creating your own language. If you can create your own language within your program, that just builds team culture. There's a great chapter on obviously this signage and reminders and, things that you can put up around your athletes to constantly remind them of the team culture. They talk about, being a head coach or and how you hire. If you're a position coach, you look at this chapter and you go, well, that's how I recruit for that room. And they say to recruit or hire like-minded people. That way, recruiting them into your culture isn't so hard as you guys think the same. Not only that, I've got a few notes here. Let me just look at this really quick.
Sure.
Yeah. And even at the beginning of the book, I think, that first chapter, they talk about, I think it's called Sweeping the Floors. And they just talk about at the end of each game, it's not your first year guys. It's not your brand new guys who are sweeping the floors, who are cleaning the locker room. It's your veterans. It's your All-American or, your best players, your team leaders who are there after the team is gone, cleaning the locker room, making sure it's how they left it. That's just a great visualization on what you want your culture to be. Where those guys who have done everything for your team, they put the team first and do what they have to do to preserve the next day.
Right. Well, and that's really, I mean, what it takes to win championships at the end of the day, right? I mean, you got to have the veteran guys who are willing to have humility, who are willing to lead by example and set the tone for the rest of the team. Because if that tone isn't set, things can get sloppy really, really quickly.
Oh, absolutely. The younger guys tend to follow what the older guys do, and if they're setting the right, if they're sending the right message, those seniors, then the rest of the boat is guaranteed to follow for sure.
No doubt. Well, awesome. Well, did you have anything else on there or?
Yeah, as far as culture, sure. I mean, I've just pulled a lot of different things that have resonated with me throughout my career as a coach. One of the other things we talked about is creating a culture of how you practice. And one of the quotes that I use is, you never rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training. So, and this idea gives you that it's the old practice how you want to play, right? Mm-hmm. If you practice slow and practice tired, that's how you're going to play in the game at times, especially when it's 4th and 1, and you're at the end of the game, and your body's tired and you can no longer think. How's your body going to react? Well, It's going to react how you've been reacting all week. So if you can, like I said, practice how you want to play, then that's one of the quotes we use to get those guys thinking that way.
Definitely. Well, I mean, even on that sense, the games aren't won on Saturdays or Sundays. Games are won in the preparation leading up to that week, from the coaching staff on down to the athletes. How you prepare, how you're watching film, the tempo you're moving at practice, the level of focus at practice, all of those things must be taken into consideration in order to win a game on Saturday, right?
Absolutely.
mean, that's everything. It's absolutely everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, it's tough for some guys to understand right away, but definitely somewhere you want to get them to. And that's why we use it in our culture.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, shifting a little bit of focus, going from when you were at Augustana, Division II university, a pretty solid program with Coach O. I know Coach O. It's just a great program, and I'm from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, so I know them well. I went to the University of South Dakota with you, where you're currently at.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the differences in recruiting from Division II to this FCS level? Because they're right next to each other in terms of the rankings of college football, but obviously different rules. You've got 63 scholarships at FCS, or I can't remember that, and then
right around there,
40 something at D2.
Yeah, not even. I think that conference held 37. I would say the biggest difference is the type of kid that you can recruit. And in both instances, you need to get creative. But at a school, at a private institution, D2, you look at their situation of their tuition. Your pool of kids or recruits are significantly smaller at an institution like Augustana, whereas at South Dakota it's a little bit bigger regarding the type of I don't know if I want to go into all of that, but. That's a great question, though.
Yeah, no, I mean,
just thinking how I would explain that.
Well, I mean, the fact of the matter is like at a Division II school, they're rarely, at a Division II school, they are rarely giving out full rides, if almost never, right? Yeah. And so, I mean, that alone is going to restrict from the type of players you can recruit, because everyone's got their own budgets. And, so although those levels are so close together, that full ride makes all the difference, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think, that's obviously another huge difference. You mentioned the number of scholarships. We're more appealing because we can pay for, an athlete's full tuition and experience in college. Whereas at a Division II school, you're almost guaranteeing yourself you'll have to pay something. Definitely a big difference. But yeah, like I said before, the pool at Augie was a little bit smaller. You were recruiting a different kind of kid who fit into the academics there, and then the tuition price being where it is. I I would say those are probably the major differences. Yeah.
Definitely. And how about the talent level? I'm just curious, from the NSIC, that Division II level, which is a strong conference in the Division II level, and now, USD and the Missouri Valley Conference at Division I FCS, probably the top FCS division in all of college football. So what's the difference in the level of play there?
It'll come down to honestly, the kids, the build, the size, all that was the same. We were recruiting that same type of kid, height and weight, those types of things. The biggest difference, I would say, is the speed factor. Speed and athleticism. You'll just see an uptick in the speed, as well as, if a kid can bend or if he's athletic and make athletic movements, getting in and out of cuts, those things, the difference between those athletes in those drills, they just look a little different when they're competing. So.
Right. And would you say, it's just the same way? Would you say it's just the same way from FCS to FBS? It's just that little bit more speed, that little bit more size. Because it's just so common nowadays to see FCS schools upsetting FBS schools, and that gap just continues to close, which I think is so great for the game. But would you say it's the same difference between FCS and FBS?
Yeah, I would say there's more of a size and weight difference between FCS and FBS than there is between FCS and Division II. You're going to find guys at that FBS level who are men amongst boys from the time they were juniors and on. Some of them sophomores and on. You'll find kids and that brings me to another good point. Kids who had matured a lot sooner. In high school, you'll typically find at that FBS level as well, right, too, just because they've had an opportunity to see that many more snaps. And, sure, that's another point too. Guys with long careers playing varsity there at the high school level who meet the height and weight requirements, who also meet the skill sets that you're looking for, will be guys that typically get looked at. You'll find at the FCS level, guys at certain positions who are just, an inch too small or maybe, 10, 15 pounds too light. Where the other thing you can look at is, a lot of program, it depends on where the program is at, right? If they need a guy to come in or a recruit to come in and play right away, that's another reason to go get that kid who is, fully developed and maybe head and shoulders above the rest of his high school team as far as his physical development. Guys that could help that team right away, and those types of things. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's interesting as a whole, just because, you've seen all the levels, and just most recently being D2, FCS, you guys play FBS games every year. Who do you guys have this upcoming year as your FBS game?
This year we will play, my gosh, we just did it, Oklahoma. I know we have, who is it? Northern Arizona, we'll go down there. And then our FBS game is Iowa State. That's right. We'll see Iowa State first week this year.
Okay,
and then
awesome.
Go down to Northern Arizona. Yeah. And then in past seasons played Oklahoma and K-State. So
awesome. Well, since your time at USD as playing, you graduated in 2011, correct?
Correct.
You were able to get away, coach high school football, go to Augie, then get back to USD to now coaching running backs. Talk about the growth of the program from when we were there playing, even from Division II days through us and the transition to FCS, and just how it's almost a completely different program, I think, from the top down. I mean, the weight room, the new stadium, and just I think the culture is so much different. The culture of winning, I think, is finally resurrecting itself at USD. In all sports, I think that's fairly obvious, and it's been that way, especially women's basketball, track. Those sports have been killing it. But now football, I think, is finally making its way. So talk about the growth over the years.
Yeah, I think, the one thing that kind of slaps you in the face is just the growth of everything around the program, with the facilities, the new home side being renovated, with an addition of 4,000 seats, the new weight room that is about, $1.1 million, rivals some of those weight rooms you'll find in the SEC. Not only that, but, a state-of-the-art training facility where kids no longer have to wait to get iced or get looked at, things like that. Just things like that just make your program more inviting, more, recruits want to be involved in that, want to be a part of that. So as in a sense, from our time, I think USD has just upped its stock as far as where kids want to go, and you can truly see that from these renovations. It's not only changed our football team, but the university, the university's look as a student body, completely different. I would say since 2011, the student body has become more diverse. There's certainly this past year, I believe, was the largest freshman class USD's ever had in its history. So things like that. But, as far as football and how that's changed, I think there's just, with this new age and technology age, guys want to be in front of their coach and want to be taught. I think there's more of a premium on being around your coach and learning from your coach, whether that has to do with football or your daily life. Kids, where kids are being managed on the academic side as well, which is what recruits want coming in, what parents want for their kids coming in. Coach Nielsen has done a great job of just, like you said, making this team believe and making winning a priority. And really, it's about all those little things that we do on a daily basis.
How do you differentiate yourself from the South Dakota states, from the North Dakota states, when you're recruiting guys, or are you recruiting guys from, what does that look like? Yeah,
honestly, I think, and some of the best feedback we've gotten is from kids who've been on campus and what they enjoy about us. But not only that, the kids that we've actually signed, and some of the feedback that we get is just how genuine our staff is when you get here. Kids are, you come into the University of South Dakota, you drive 8 to 10 minutes through cornfields, and then it's almost like a land of Oz with all of the new updates and renovations that are happening and that are already up. So kids are in the top when they see that and they come in. But once we get them in front of the staff, it's a feel of caring, and you can really tell how the staff gels, and just that energy that we bring to those recruits when they're on campus here.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sense. And when you're recruiting kids, it's a two-way street, right? As much as you guys are feeling them out, they're feeling you out. And to build that great team that we're talking about, you need to recruit those like-minded guys where the coaches are on the same page as the players. And when that chemistry is solid, I think that's when we started to get to talking about championship teams. So That's awesome. And as we bring this thing to a close, Dante, like, what has the sport of football meant to you and your life? The principles it's taught you, the relationships, all of that.
Yeah, I mean, just sitting back thinking about it, football's been everything. I've spent my entire life either playing or learning about this game. And, in my mind, I'm an expert at this, and just like any professor, in their field of study, I'm going to continue to learn this game and pass it on. The game's definitely taught me discipline. How to be disciplined. It's given me strength, not only mental strength, not only physical strength, but mental strength as well. And how to persevere, how to adapt to different situations. And I truly just want to help kids, help recruits and help student athletes be able to learn those lessons as they play the game as well. So.
No doubt. Well, that's all awesome stuff. And that's what's so special about coaching, man, is making an impact in the lives of young men, helping them to learn the sport in the right way, learn these characteristics of how to be a great athlete, a great student, a great person. And it's just incredible the type of people that the sport of football produces each year and releases into the world.
Yeah. Yeah. There's watching these, breaking down guys from the NFL and their careers and things like that. It's just interesting to see what they went through or didn't go through, and kind of make a note and kind of make a blueprint of who's going to be successful, how you can narrow those things down. Football is interesting because anyone can play the game. Mm-hmm. Anyone can play the game from any type of background, any type of any age, anyone can play the game. That's really what makes it interesting. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Dante, super pumped to talk with you, man. A lot of great stuff today. Y'all stay safe, you and the family, and best of luck to you and the Yotes this year.
Hey, I appreciate it, Will. Thanks for having me on.
All right, brother. Much love. Take care.
All right, you too.